You see that? See where it says you're live? That means that we're live now.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
You see that? And we got no watches, but we've got 4 likes for the show already. So that's kind of cool. I like that.
I can't see you.
You can't?
No.
I can see you.
I can see that piece that you have up with me in my picture and Friday.
This is going to be a really interesting start to the show, isn't it?
There we go. Yay.
There you go. I've got 2 people watching.
Hooray!
We are triumphant. Welcome to Friday with Friends. This is Simon Brooks, your host, with Karen Chace. The one and only Karen Chace. Actually, there is another Karen Chace. I did find that out when I was searching for your website. Not that I don't know it, but I just wanted to make sure that it was 100% right. But we're not going to give you Karen's website address right now because she's got some sticky Actually, we couldn't we? Let's just give you Karen's website. Simon, Kristen's here. That's nice. Simon, hey, Kristen.
I think it's your fault, Simon. You did something with it. Hi, Kristen. Oh, so good to see you. Virtual hugs.
Oh, now we've got 5 people. We got 7, actually, Rachel. Oh, and Jane, she's joining us.
Oh, Jane. Hi, Jane.
Jane's awesome. I met Jane at Stone Soup Storytelling, and we're all sharing this Airbnb. There's like 12 of us there. Well, actually, I think we had 9 or 10 of us there, actually. But it was so much fun. Like all of us in this in the same house. I bet this amazing basement with a ping pong table. And it was not so loud. It's my nap time. Sorry, Pete. Have you ever met Pete Abdallah?
Pete, what's his last name?
Abdallah.
No, I have not.
Abdallah. Pete is phenomenal. He was like our naughty uncle when we were at Florida. You would like him. I think you and he would get on like a house on fire.
Yay!
Who's not a fan of Karen? That's what I want to know. Everybody that knows Karen is a fan of Karen.
Oh, that's
sweet. And I have to say that here's Tony. What does Tony say?
Oh, Tony. Digital coin. Thank you.
Of course, there's a digital coin. Yeah. So when I first started storytelling professionally, there were a couple of people that I used to call on a regular basis for advice and stuff. And one of them was Angela Klingler, who I'm going to write her a letter with pen and paper and stuff and see how she and John are doing. And the other person was Karen, because those two knew, those 2 people knew that they knew everything, basically, as far as I was concerned.
And if I didn't, I made it up.
You did. Or you said, Simon, you know how to use a browser? Go and use it. So I would, digital coin. It's a Bitcoin, Tony.
I like that.
Nice one, Rachel. I like that. And so I used to phone her up, and then we got really close, and became good friends, like seeing each other at Sharing the Fire here in the Northeast. And Karen's always been a major supporter, and we've done workshops together at Sharing the Fire, and we've done it at the National Storytelling Network conference as well. And that was the first time I'd been there, actually, was to do that workshop.
In Arizona. It was in Arizona.
Yeah, it was Phoenix, Arizona. That was fun.
And it was hot.
It was hot. And there was that wonderful storm that came in. That was amazing.
Oh, yeah, that was that. What do they call that? Was that sandstorm? There was a certain haboob or something like that. It was
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. It was excellent. That was a fun event.
That was our branding workshop, and you get your little brand guy up there on the screen. I
know, right? I brand everything. Watch out.
Remember the title was branding. It doesn't have to hurt.
It's true. It doesn't. That's what we like to try to do anyway. So how you been? What have you been up to? What have you been up to during these COVID times? You've been looking after your grandchildren, I know.
Yes, I have, for the most part. My grandchildren, homeschooling when everything, went south, and we'll be homeschooling again. Their school is going to be going all remote, at least until October. So we'll be homeschooling. Doing some wonderful work with Andrea Lovett. She was going to try to be on today. She might get on in a little bit. We did a workshop with tweens out of the Boston area. We had 7 that we did 4 weeks with storytelling. That was great. It was a little bit of a challenge the last workshop, the last Zoom meeting we had with them, because I was in Maine on vacation, and I said, well, no problem. I've got Wi-Fi up there. It's only, an hour, I'll get on. And that's when the hurricane started to affect us, and we lost power up in Maine. So I was scrambling to find some pirated Wi-Fi, and I found a Dunkin' Donuts miles away, but you couldn't sit inside because of social distancing. So there I was in my car. It was about 90 degrees on my computer on Zoom, trying to teach the class with Andrea. So
that's funny.
We got it done. It was fun. So that was great. And we are hoping to work with, we have a proposal in for MGH, Mass General Hospital. There's a particular group there that works with immigrants, and they want us to work with them and help the immigrants bring their stories forward, their personal stories. So that's cool. Coming up. So that should be fun.
That is cool.
And because of you, I did those 2 online storytelling programs in Vermont, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. She's excellent. I can't remember her name now.
Lovely.
But yeah. That's a fun gig. I'm glad you got those.
Yeah,
I've actually helped a couple of people get gigs lately. It's it's really cool to be able to do that.
It is.
When you can, share the love, share the wealth. So yeah, Rachel's right. So Andrea is here. She did say hi.
Hi, Andrea.
And I said hi back. I actually sent her an invite to join, like the 2 of us. What did Via say? Karen has been my lifeline. Yeah, she's amazing, isn't she?
Oh, that's
every tiny URL. I know that should be Karen's nickname. Tiny URL. Where's that? Tiny URL? There she is, right there.
That's a good one. Tiny URL. I like that. I'm so glad I could help. Thank you. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah. So Tony wants to know how you got started in storytelling.
Oh my goodness, that is such one of those serendipity stories. I was actually working at my local elementary school doing running the nutrition program, doing the books, the accounting. And I was on the PTO board. My son was in the school at the time. And the principal asked me to go with some teachers as a parent liaison to a conference in New Hampshire. It was a conference of talented and gifted children. And our entertainment at lunchtime was a storyteller. Her name is Roberta Wolfson, and she lived at the time in New Hampshire. And she was so fabulous. She had grown up in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so she wove African folk tales with stories of her life growing up in Africa. So it was this wonderful juxtaposition of story. And I couldn't leave the room when she was telling. And I got her information. And then I came home, and this is pre-Google days, and started trying to find. I know. Google had just started, and still using Boolean math, the pluses and minuses, and found the Northlands workshop in Iowa. I didn't find Lanes first. I found Northlands. I registered, bought a ticket, put myself on a plane, and I started. That's where I started there, and then I found out about Judith Black's wonderful 4-day workshop in Marblehead that she does every year. And I didn't know her. And I emailed and said, I'd like to come. And so she wrote back and she said, that's great. Here's some information you need to know, to be prepared. And I looked at it and I completely froze. I thought, I can't go to this. I'm dipping my toes in the water. There's no way. And so I wrote
she goes deep right off the bat, doesn't she?
Really. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I can't. This isn't for me. I'm just starting. And typical fashion, she said, oh, come, we're going to have a good time. And so I went, and we did have a good time. We had a fabulous time. And it was her and Doug Lippman.
Oh, wow.
Had I known anything about them, I wouldn't have gone because I would have been far too intimidated. So I'm so glad I went. They were both so wonderful, so gracious. And that's the very first time I ever told in public, was at a venue that Judith put together for the students to go and tell at. So, and Doug gave me the best piece of advice, the absolute best piece of advice. We were ready to, it was a big after school program. And one of the women in our small storytelling class, you may remember the Pointer Sisters back from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I'm way too young now. I don't remember.
Yeah. Her name was Ruth Pointer, and she was in the class. And of course,
No way.
Yeah, I swear to God. I mean, stage presence to oozing out of every pore of her. And she was a lovely, lovely lady. And so Doug said to me when we were at the location to tell, he said, when would you like to go on? Do you want to go first, second? There was 7 of us. And I said, I don't care when you put me on, just do not put me after Ruth.
And so he did.
What he said to me was, I don't even remember, to tell you the truth, if he did or not, but what he said to me, it served me so well. He said, oh no, you must learn to bask in someone else's glory.
Yeah.
So if she sets that stage for you, what a gift, if she has the audience ready for you. And so when I've been telling at different, times, different conferences with, big name people, that kind of always rings in my head. So it's a wonderful gift he gave me. So
yeah,
it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Oh, that's my story.
That's just a tiny part of your story, because Rachel was saying you got to start from before birth, pre-birth, in the womb. That's what Rachel Heaven said. It's like, start pre-birth.
Yeah,
but we don't have to do that. We only got like an hour. So.
Right. So there was something on Facebook the other day. Were you the one in grammar school where the teacher said you talked too much on your report card? And I'm like, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was me too. Yeah, all of my report cards. I found them from elementary school, from primary school, that my mum had, because I was up in her attic looking for some stuff that I'd left there. This is like years ago. This is like probably 15, 20 years ago. And I'm going through her attic on one of my visits home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these are my report cards from elementary school. And
wow.
And I started reading them. And I was like, could do better. Could do better. And I was like, all right, I've read enough of that. I don't need to know anymore.
That's my mantra.
Yeah, could do better. Has so much potential.
Yes. And you've exceeded it.
No, I have now, I hope. Well, not exceeded it, but I'm getting there.
Didn't I tell you a long time ago?
Yeah, you did. You did. You told me I'll be on the stage, on the big stage.
And you know who else I said that to?
Tony.
Reggie Carpenter.
Yes.
And Linda Gorham.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Reggie's freaking awesome. She's amazing. Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about this woman that wove personal story in with folk tales and her African stories. Well, Mo Reynolds does that. She's an amazing storyteller up in Montana. I keep mentioning her name. She better have her
name before. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I keep mentioning it to everyone. She's really good. She's Tim Lowry is with us. Hey, Tim. Tim sometimes joins us, which is always wonderful. Yay, Tim. I love it.
Great storyteller. I had the pleasure of hearing him for the first time at the Connecticut Storytelling Conference and Festival/Conference a couple of years ago when I was presenting up there. It was my first time hearing him. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah, he is. He was our MC at the Ghost Stories at Jonesboro last year.
Fun.
And I couldn't believe, it was just unbelievable because he started off with a little, I can't even remember what it was, but he started off with a little something and he carried it through each individual storyteller. And then he brought it right the way back around at the end and kind of closed it off. It was absolutely genius. It was so good.
Brilliant.
Tim is a phenomenal MC. Watching him do that was just like
a masterclass.
Yes, it was almost. All right, Via's she's got Karen Langford Chace. What a wonderful quote from Doug, and thank you for sharing. I've only told online twice. What? No way. We'll have to we'll have to sort you out. I'm going to drag you online with me, and you can tell a story. And both times I was so nervous following the big dogs. Simon Brooks was the first and Ed. I'm not a big dog. I'm a big puppy. In the second, but now I remember that quote. Yes, you should. You should.
It was a wonderful quote. And I've reminded Doug about it a few times through the years and thanked him for that because it has served me well, for sure.
Yeah, right. Tim says he likes people from Connecticut. I think Tim is a Connecticut person at heart, really. I think he's a secret Connecticut person. I think it's somewhere hidden in his DNA.
Oh, it's wonderful. That was the first time I had gone to that conference festival presenting, and it was so extraordinary. Just the way everything was handled so well. And as a presenter, they took, I mean, it wasn't just me. Yeah. They took care of all their presenters so beautifully, checked in with you at all times. Do you need anything? Everything all right? And the quality of the storytellers they have there for the Friday night cabaret and the other times is just terrific.
Yeah, no, it is. It's because Arnie Pritchard looked after me when I went there.
Oh, he's fabulous. I love him.
He is. He was so cute and like really kind of like, I'm going to look after you, and all very serious and everything. And there's me who's like this. He
was on my TV show last year, I think. And he told the wonderful story they put together from his father's letters from the war. Very, very powerful. Really powerful.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, tell everyone about that, because that's a story worth hearing about.
Oh, what, the Story Cafe?
Well, that and also Arnie Pritchard's story.
Oh, yeah. He wove together letters from his father and put them in, tells it first person. So it really puts you there. It really, really brings you there to what's happening. And he also uses that story in the workshop he gives on how to bring historical stories to life.
Yeah.
And so he has this great formula, the way he does it. And of course, a lot of it is using dialogue, which, we tend to do a lot in storytelling anyway, even when we're telling our folk tales and fairy tales. And I don't know, there was something about the way he brought it to life. He wasn't overly dramatic. Mm-hmm. He stepped into the story. He stepped into it, and you felt you were there with him as he told it. Yeah, it really was great.
And he's such a nice guy too.
He really is, and a very intelligent man.
Yeah, hugely intelligent. I always feel a little intimidated around him. I'm okay with Tony, but when I hang out with Arnie, it's a bit different. Right, Tony? So your Story Cafe is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Karen records TV shows at a local station, and she invites. So go on, you tell it, because it's your thing.
That's okay. It's a Seekonk cable TV in Massachusetts. And, again, another piece of serendipity, going there to actually be interviewed about my book. Did I lose you, Simon? I can't.
No, I'm still here.
Okay, good.
I just thought that people could just look at all of you.
Oh, thank you. And I was being interviewed about my book and also asked to tell stories. And when I was finished with that particular show, the executive director at the time asked if I would be willing to do a storytelling show, a regular storytelling show. But his vision was a children's show where I would come on and I would be telling stories, for an audience, for, a TV audience. And while, that was grand, I said to him, we as storytellers do so much more than just tell to children, which is fabulous. I mean, I love telling to children, but I started to tell him about our colleagues who work with the homeless, work in the prison systems, work in the schools, our officiants at weddings and youth stories, our chaplains and social justice. And he just couldn't believe that story was used in all those different ways, business. And I said, I would really prefer, rather than have it be a show of me just telling stories, I would rather bring in colleagues to showcase their work and obviously be able to tell a story of their choice. And he loved the idea. And so that was in 2015. And it's still going strong. And luckily, it was supposed to be once a month. Andrea Lovett was my first guest. She was kind enough to be my first guest. And we're very good friends. And, we work together in workshops as well.
Well, your home is, aren't you?
What?
Your home is.
Yeah, yes, homies. That's right. And so, we had a lot of fun on the show, and it was a very easy rapport back and forth. And he liked it so much. I remember he came out and he said to us, "This isn't your first time doing this, is it?" We said, "Well, we haven't been on, doing this, but we speak in front of people all the time." And he liked it so much. He said, "Will you do 2 times a month?" And so I did that for a while. And then I had to back off a little bit to once a month. But you've been on the show a number of times. I've had Tony on, Arnie, Andrea. I've had Judith Black, Jay O'Callahan. Laura Packer was supposed to be on this month, but of course that all went south with COVID. Lauren Nemey's been on. Bill Harley. It's been such a blessing to have so many wonderful storytellers come and share their work with the audience, and hopefully it's allowed the audience to understand that we do so much more than just go to schools and preschools and classrooms.
Right. So Donna wanted to know if any of these shows are available online.
Yes, they are. If you go to the studio's website.
Do you know what that is?
It is seekonktv.com, I believe.
Seekonk is SEACONK.
No, SEEKONK.com. I think it's .com. Let me look it up. It's the only problem is it's a little difficult to find the way they have it set up. So what I can do is I can find the correct, because when you get there, there's a couple of ways things you have to click to get where you need to be, and it can be a little convoluted. But in fact, I'm redoing my website. And part of it is to put all of these shows up on my new website as well. So it'll be very easy for people to go. Seekonk Cable Access. Okay, here we go. I will get you the website. Okay, here it is. TV, just the letters T and V.
Yeah.
9.
Yeah.
The number 9.
Seekonk.com.
And the show is called The Story Cafe.
All right. So this is what you're looking for, folks, not what I just put up. That was inaccurate.
That's inaccurate. That's spelled incorrectly. There's a K on the end.
Oh, sorry.
K on the end. And Donna, all the way up in Canada. Donna, if you're ever down here, you have to come on the show.
Oh, there you go.
Remember we went for lunch with Donna in New York? Yes.
Was it in New York?
Yes, it was New York when we did our first branding workshop.
That's right. Yes, we did. It was. That was fun. So you mentioned your book, but you didn't tell us anything about it.
Oh, my book. Okay. So my book is called Story by Story. And Ted Parker's Publications published it. He was lovely enough to reach out to me. And it is based on my 18 years of work with a student storytelling troupe from 2nd grade up to 7th grade. And I work with them in an after-school, initially started as an in-school program, and now it's an after-school program. And so it's the ins and outs and the pros of, and, cons of what to do, what not to do, how to get started. There's a lot of original games that I've invented that are in there that you can use, interactive games, and also worksheets I've created. And a shout out to Sue Black in Illinois, because Sue Black also at one time had a storytelling troupe, and she herself had some wonderful information, and she allowed me to put it in the book.
Is that the W sheet? The
What?
why, is that the W sheet? The why, when, where, and all that kind of stuff that she has? Because that's an incredible. I used that the other day. I'm doing a workshop with some kids, and Sue Black gave me permission to use it as a handout, and I have all
Yeah,
of her information on the bottom because that's
it-
ethically
that's
correct. I'm
correct.
not stealing anybody's stuff. I am using her stuff with her
With
permission, with her
permission.
name on it.
That's
So
right.
if people have any questions, they can go to her about it.
And her information in my book is all credited to her as well.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of information in there from hands-on. I mean, actually being, in the trenches with the kids, and how information about how some things, came to light, and how I invented certain games based on what happened in the classroom, or even there's one particular piece in there. It's a new kind of storyboard. It's called What's Driving Your Story. And it's like a road map with a race car. And at different stops along the way, the students do some work. Oh, Andrea, you're sweet. It's like the Bible.
Small B. Small B. We don't upset anyone.
Small B. And that came about because I was bringing one of my students home. She happened to live across the street from me. So I told her parents, I'll drop her off. I'll bring her home. So we were coming home one day, and my road is very windy. And she said, Mrs. Chace, I think storytelling is like driving a car. And I said, well, what makes you say that, Mia? And she said, well, you have a beginning, and then you have all these different twists and turns you have to take, and then you arrive at the end. Yeah. And I went, that's so brilliant. And I dropped her off and immediately ran in the house and created the worksheet. So Mia gets credit in the book for that. So things like that, lots of fun, lots of different games that we play, lots of information to use. And it's not only for student storytellers. I mean, storytellers themselves can use a lot of the worksheets for their own storytelling.
Right. There is a lot of good stuff in there. I do have a copy of that book, signed by you, of course. And yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent. So it's the comparison of the road and the stories. Yes, it's so true. And a lot of the stories I tell, there's usually a journey in it. So I mean, it makes perfect sense to have that analogy right there. So I was just looking for a comment that came in earlier, because I thought it was really nice. Because Janice Denagra, she sometimes popped in, and she said, "Hi, cooties."
Janice.
Ah, dear. So you haven't really got any plans right now, have you? Other than recording a CD in my studio.
Oh, well, my.
So I just want everyone who's watching to know that I have been pushing this woman to make a blooming CD for, like, I don't know how many years, 5 at least.
Yeah, too long.
Yes, and so everyone send her an email and say, go see Simon, make a CD. Go see Simon, make a CD.
Well, I mean, actually, my next thing is I'm updating my website. I'm working on my website. So
yeah, but you're not doing that. Somebody else is doing that for you.
Well, no, I'm sending new content, things like that. So there is a little bit of me, but he's doing a great job. He's actually the webmaster for Greg Weiss, who has a new website, which is wonderful. So he connected me with Mark. So it'll be a whole new look.
Good. So back to the CD. When are you going to start working on that? I don't care about your website. You've already got one of those. You don't have a CD. And you're such a good storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
You are. And you say that people don't want to listen to my Boston accent. And I'm like, well, you forget about it when you're in the story, because you're such a good... Andrea, isn't she a good storyteller? Right?
Oh, she's so sweet.
She is. She's another nutcase. I love her to death.
I know. We have more fun. And she's an excellent storyteller.
She is.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. The first time I heard her tell, because I knew her for a lot longer than... I knew her more than I knew her for her storytelling. I knew that she was, because we were on the same board together for a while and all that kind of stuff. And when I heard her tell, because she's she's type A personality, right?
Yes.
She's very type A personality. And she'll go from one idea to another and another and another. And it's like trying to hold her down. It's wonderful and crazy at the same time. And when I heard her tell a story, I was just like, oh my God, it's so powerful. Absolutely amazing.
She's funny. Andrew's really funny. When I was doing the Story Cafe down in New Bedford, not the one that's the TV, but I had, and you came down, Simon, you did that in an art museum. And we would do Story Cafe nights with an open mic and with the main storyteller. And Andrea was one of my main storytellers one night. And she did her entire show of family stories, most of them mainly based on her mother. I wish I could have met her mother. Her mother just is the funniest person. And the way Andrea tells the stories of the situations her mother would get herself into, the whole place was roaring that night. I don't think it just from the whole hour she was telling, it was the funniest night.
Yeah. Andrea's amazing. I love her to death. I really do.
She says she's ADD.
Yeah, well, that makes total sense.
when we're working on a proposal, we'll be on the phone and I'll bring up my computer and I'll be typing. I type all the ideas because they just come out of her like
it is. It's like it's watching a high-speed train going by, and it's like it's amazing. She's freaking awesome.
Oh, look, a squirrel. Yeah, you're right, Kristen. Oh, look, a squirrel.
Yeah. There's Alan. Alan's always hanging out with us. He's great. I'm liking Alan.
Hi, Alan.
He's
Alan, but nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet him. He's a good guy. She is. Andrea, you're just a wonderful person. You're amazing. You'll get your head through the door. You'll talk the door away and just come in. And I mean that in a loving way, not a nasty way.
And Andrea and I also, we do, I'm going to pitch this wonderful program that we do together. It's been 5 years now. It's called Once Upon a Generation, where my storytellers that I've worked with, and so they already know how to tell a story. And
now, are these your youth storytellers?
Yes, my youth storytellers. Okay. Right. We put them together with senior citizens from my 2 local towns, and even Taunton, Lakeville, Taunton, and Freetown. And we do 3 workshops with the elders and help them find a story from their life from, say, between the ages of 5 and 25, and help them get a story. And then they meet the students. They share their story with the students. And then we pair the students up with a senior, and the students interview the seniors further about their story, what they want to know more about. And then the seniors go away for a little while, and we work with the students for about another 7 weeks. And then the seniors come back. They see what the students have done with their story. Obviously, they use literary license, but they keep the framework. And then we have 2 performances out in the community. Free performances, and we have the seniors bring in pictures from their lives and pictures that go to the story. And we have during the intermission, we run a slideshow of all the seniors' pictures, and it has been such a wonderful bridge between the generations. Yeah, we had started working with the seniors again this year. We had 2 meetings with them when COVID hit. And everybody, and they always have strong stories, but this year, and I think Andrea will agree, the stories were particularly strong, and we haven't been able to finish, but we're going to try to get them all together on Zoom. But one of the stories, just to tell you about how powerful some of these tales can be, we had a gentleman come for the first time, and we said, okay, what stories do you have? This is when we're doing the workshop with the seniors. And he starts telling us the story he has about his cat, which, was lovely, but it was anecdotal, and it really wasn't what, it was too new. We wanted something further back because we want the children to understand what life used to be like. Right. And so he said, well, I have this one other story. So we said, well, go ahead, tell us a story. And he proceeds to tell us about the time when he was 15 years old. And he was in Washington, D.C., and heard Martin Luther King give his I Have a Dream speech.
Wow.
And Andrew and I looked at each other. We almost fell off our chairs. And then he continues to talk about how he met Coretta Scott King, and how he got involved in, the movement. And because he's a folk singer and he worked with Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I'm not kidding. It was like...
And he's telling a story about a cat.
A cat.
Well, I guess that's that's what's in his heart right now, right? It's the cat. It's not.
It was unbelievable.
So exactly, Rachel.
Wow. And so we had him. He came when he met the students. We paired him up with one of my students, whose name is Lindsay, but she went by the nickname Cookie. Okay. And we paired him up with her. And he said, I worked with a woman when I was young as a singer whose name was Cookie. And we find out that my student sings. Beautiful.
Oh, no way.
I never knew. So he came in with his guitar one day and he played the song We Shall Overcome for the students. And it was so powerful. And so Andrea and I had the idea that at the end of the main performance, the both community performances, we put Cookie up last. And then Rick came up with his guitar and started to play. And they both started to sing. And then one by one, the seniors and the students came up front and they were all singing.
That must have been.
Still get chills.
Yeah.
Still get chills.
Yeah.
There wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was just, and Cookie, I remember Cookie saying, I'm so nervous to tell this story. And I said, but you're such a wonderful teller and you've been with me for so many years. You know how to do this. And she said, but I feel the weight of history on my shoulders.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just so.
Right. Because that's what, right? Isn't that what we all dream of?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I would have been a bawling mess of tears myself. I would have been like crying like a baby there.
It was unbelievable. And the lovely thing is that the students and the seniors have become friends. They forge friendships. Yes, you're right, Kristen, the synchronicity. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it does. It builds community. I mean, I've done, I was to be a children's librarian as well. When I was telling stories, I was a storyteller and being a children's librarian. Then, the two things had to separate at some point. And what I did was I started doing a workshop for the kids on telling stories, and then some of the adults were kind of like, "Well, can we do this as well?"
Oh,
and then we ended up with this intergenerational workshop, and parents and kids told stories together, and it was so wonderful, and it builds that whole strength of community. Because we all see a little part of each other, even if they're folk tales, we still, because you're working with these people and they're pouring their heart and soul into this story, trying to make it work. And there's another thing that I've done a few times, which is similar to this. It's not quite as intergenerational, but I've had one of the school teachers at a school I was working at. She said, my daughter, I'm in the 5th grade and I want you to teach storytelling to the 5th grade, but my daughter's in 3rd grade. And at the same time that you're going to, or just after you get there, they've going to be finished with fractured fairy tales, this unit on fractured fairy tales. And we got all the stories that these 3rd graders had told, and we gave them to the 5th graders, and we asked them to tell these 3rd grader stories without these 3rd graders knowing it, right? And then at the end of the week, we did a show. The whole school was invited to this. We had microphones set up, and it was a proper job was done. And I was sitting up in the on the steps of the auditorium, and I happened to be seated next to some of these 3rd graders, right? And the first kid gets up and stands up and starts telling this story. And this kid, I hear him, he's like two, 3 seats away from me. He's like, I think that's the story that I wrote, right? I think that's my story. Then one of the other kids turned around and said, I think this is your story. And I'm like smiling, right? And then as it gets on, he's like, it's my story.
Oh, how great.
And then the next 5th grader got up and told another kid, and that's my story. And they started to cotton on like that, because we didn't, it was all top secret. And so these 5th graders, they told every single story that the 3rd graders had written. We made sure that every single one was told, because you can't pick out one or two.
Oh, no. Right.
And it was, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And what I was hoping was that because it was such a success, they would invite me back every year and we do the same thing. But they never did.
Oh, that's what a great idea.
I know, right?
Idea.
It was so cool. It was such a cool idea, and it worked so well. But whatever. It's all right.
I wanted to, Christian said something about synchronicity. In the one year, one of my students, she was a fourth grader, and she was living in a group home in town. She had been taken away from her parents, not because of anything she did. It was because the parents, weren't properly parented.
They weren't behaving properly, right?
And so everybody in school wanted to adopt this little girl. She was just a love, an absolute love. And she joined the storytelling troupe. Mm-hmm. And at that time, it was during the school day. And so one of the classes, I would take the students to the library, the school library, to the 398.2 section. And they could either choose stories that I had brought in from my many books, or they could choose, a book off the shelf. And so she did. And I didn't think much about it at all until the night of the festival. And now, mind you, she had told this story a number of times in practice sessions and in class, but it still hadn't clicked until the night of the festival. And she's up there. She was a little bit of a thing. And she's up on the big stage and she's telling this story, and it hits me. This is her story. The story that she chose was Rapunzel, taken away from her parents.
Yeah.
And hidden away because her parents couldn't even know where she was. And it was at that. I mean, I always knew fairy tales and folk tales had wisdom within them, but I mean, it was that light bulb moment. I don't think she recognized that that's what drew her to that story, but somewhere inside that was her tale.
Right. And that same thing happened to my daughter, Perry, when she was about 6 or 7. A friend of hers told her about this incident that had happened to her. And Perry was trying to process it, I guess. And she came into my office and took down Little Red Riding Hood. And we read it for like 2 weeks as she was processing what had happened.
Wow.
And it was just like, I had no idea about the event until Sarah told me, and I was like, oh, that's what she's doing. She's processing this. And I didn't say anything to Perry. I just let her do it. I was like, and obviously, if you want to, do you want to talk about anything? She's like, no, just read the story again. It's like, all right, got it. But yeah.
It's interesting that you recognize that, because I remember asking my son's pediatrician when he was younger, he wanted to watch the same movie over and over and over again. And, I was starting to think he's getting a little obsessive. And so I mentioned it to the pediatrician, and he said, no, children will do that when they're trying to process something. They're trying to understand something, and they'll either a book, as you said, or a movie, they'll watch it over and over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Janice says all stories are personal. True.
They are. They absolutely are. I mean, there are stories that I find that I really resonate with, and I tell them, and it might be like 3 years later. It's like, I know why I like that story so much. Yes. I can see how that connected. Yeah. And Janice, yes, I was a children's librarian, but I was a feral children's librarian. I was feral. I was not trained at all. It was in a small local library, and I was good at crafts and stuff. And so I went in as a feral children's librarian and stayed there for something like 7-8 years. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that. So.
I know somebody else used it to me. It was this librarian, and she said, "Oh, you were a feral children's librarian?" And I was like, "Yep." It's like I knew exactly what she was talking about. I was like, in so many different ways, I was a feral children's librarian. We had this old guy that would come in at about 2:00 in the afternoon, and then the kids would come in at 2:33, and they've been in school, they've been working hard, and they're blowing off steam and all the rest of it. And this old guy came up to me and says, "Do you think you could keep those children quieter? You are the children's librarian after all." And I looked at him. I was like, "Yeah, I'll certainly have a word with the kids. I'm just curious. Is like, so what do you do during the day?" He said, "Well, I'm retired." So I was like, so do you go to many board meetings or anything like that? And he says, "Well, once in a while I go to a board meeting." I said, "So you can really come into this library at any time of the day, right?" And he's like, "Yes." And I said, "Well, these kids have just finished school, right? They've been, they're just letting off a little bit of steam. I think we'll let them let off a little bit of steam for a little while. And I said, you're more than happy to come in a little earlier if you want.
Very wise.
Yeah. What did Kristen say? Children need the yes, they do need the repetition. Right. It's true. Yes. Yeah. They do.
So many things out of control. Yes, you're right. So many things out of control right now. In particular, they need them more than ever. They need stories more than ever.
They do.
Yeah.
You're free to use it, Janice. And if anytime you call me a feral librarian, I will not take offense to it. I will take pride in that title, in that moniker.
Well, I think too, you were saying you did crafts with the children. Andrea and I and quite a few of the storytellers in the New England area, we were part of a Massachusetts cultural program called FAIR, Family Adventures in Reading.
You and culture?
Now, I was actually cultured for a little week, for 5 years. And unfortunately, they don't do the program anymore. But there was a delightful array of books that they would choose 2 a week, and each on a specific theme. It might be bravery or family or community, whatever. And the parents would read the books at home with the children, and then they would come to the library the next week. And we, as the FAIR facilitators, would do a round, discussion. So it was like a family book club, and we do a discussion. And when I first started with it in 2011, now you're talking an hour and a half with these families and children. And I said, this is a really long time to expect these children to sit and discuss a book.
Right.
Can I introduce a craft that complements the theme of the stories? And luckily, the woman who was running it at the time said yes. And so that's what we would do in between. And it was always a lot of fun. And I also found that when the parents were doing the crafts with the children, there was a lot of conversation going on.
Yeah.
Talking to each other, which was lovely. And in the round discussions we would have about the books, and the parents would share. Of course, I would always come with questions to start the discussion. And the parents would share things, and you would see the children look at their parents and say, I never knew that about you. And so it was a wonderful way to build family structure too.
Yeah, it does. It does. And, it's like, going back to this intergenerational thing. I mean, that, if the kids are bringing their work home and they're discussing it, then that brings their parents in as well. And then they get closer to, and it all comes down to the community and how close we get with our community. I used to work with vital communities, and we used to do a treasure hunt thing called Valley Quest. And it was the same thing. We would, most of the stuff that we were doing at the time was place-based mapping. And so we would start out with the younger kids, it would be the school, right? But with the older kids, middle school kids and the upper elementary, we would go into the town or the village that we were working at and map out the town. And then we would get stories from the elders. And then we would find out that this particular road is named after Jones, whatever, right? And apparently this kid over here is actually related to him somehow. And then these kids would all of a sudden feel so much more grounded in their community. And that also, again, same thing. It gave a lot of, parents would come up to us and be like, so where did you find all this stuff out? Well, the Historical Society, town records and stuff like that,
Google.
Yes, Google. Yeah. It's so much fun when you kind of like put all that stuff together and bring a family together.
And one of the things too, even not even just the stories, but we had one woman that was with us the first year, Doris, and she said, I don't think I have any stories. And with the more Andrea and I started to chat with her, we found out that when in the 1960s, she had 4 children, a young woman had 4 children, and her husband up and left her and the children. So she had to go to work as a secretary and raise these 4 children by herself. And we're saying that in itself is an amazing life story that because back then in the 60s, there were not the type of organizations to help out single parents. So
it was also scorned on, and women, what did you do that drove him away, right?
exactly.
It was never the guy's fault.
No. And but she brought in, I remember she brought in a beautiful photo book, and in one of the photos was her wedding portrait. It was just her, obviously done in a studio. And she, at the time, she was probably in her 70s and a stunning young woman. And I remember the children looking at it and going, "Who's that?" So it was a wonderful way for them to see that these elders, yes, they were once younger too, and they
Right.
have lives.
Yeah.
And so if you see this person, who may be having difficulty, walking or talking, they have life experiences that are very valuable.
Right.
For me, it's been an extra blessing because my mother-in-law, who's 91, has taken part in the program every year. So
Nice.
I have so far, five wonderful stories from her life. And she grew up very, very poor during the Depression with a large family. So her stories are pretty powerful. So
That's so cool. Yeah, I've got some stories from my mom, and every time we have a long conversation, there's always like a little bit more that comes out, which is always kind of fun. The first big conversation that we had was when my grandmother died, and my mum and my gran, they didn't always see eye to eye, but we'll leave it at that. And when my gran died, there was a lot of healing going on with my gran and my mum, which was absolutely freaking awesome. And then that night after the funeral, there was a bottle of wine on the table, and my mum drank most of it, and I had a voice recorder. And I just started asking her questions, and I got so much of her personal history that I had no idea about.
that's one.
And like halfway through the evening, she goes, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a voice recorder." She said, "You recording this?" And I was like, "Yes, I am."
Heck yes.
Yeah, right. I was
Well,
like, "Yeah, this."
my mom came from a large Irish family and 12 brothers and sisters. And I had grown
That's a
up
lot.
hearing, Irish Catholics, good Irish Catholics, hearing all these crazy stories. And my mom, died quite young, 69. I think that's young, quite suddenly. And I remember thinking, all those stories, I wasn't a storyteller yet, but remembering all those stories are gone. And so her brother one of her brothers still lived locally. He was also my godfather. And I asked him, "Can I come and ask you some questions, some about family stories?" He said, "Sure." So Ray came with me and we set up a video camera. I said, "Do you mind if I videotape this?" He said, "No, nope." I said, "That way I don't have to be taking notes." And he sat by the fire with a glass of scotch. I asked one question and he was off and running. I have 2 hours of stories, family stories, and I am so grateful because sadly he passed away this May. But I have the stories. And boy, like you, did I hear some good family stories.
Yeah, right.
Oh, maybe for the CD, Simon. Maybe for the CD, some family stories for my CD.
So that's 2 CDs you want to record. There's one of folk and fairy tales, which you're really good at telling, and also a family CD. I like that idea. All right, you might have to move down for a weekend if we're going to do 2 CDs.
Sounds like fun.
It will be. It will be. I'll swing a hammock up in the garage. You can spend the night in the studio.
I love hammocks, actually.
So does my son. We got him a hammock because he likes being outdoors and stuff, and he loves his hammock. He's taken it on like all sorts of adventures. He has an adventure pack, and that's one of the things that's in it. So he just picks up his bag and off. He's like, "Going for an adventure, Mum. Going for an adventure, Dad." And off he
What
goes.
do they call that in Australia? A walkabout. Going for a
Yeah,
walkabout.
well, a walkabout is. Oh, Rachel wants to know the due date of your CD.
Oh no! Now Rachel's in on it.
Here we go. And Andrea's like, 2 CDs, Karen, go for it.
Andrea's heard some of my family stories because she's had me at some of her story slams. And so I've done some family stories for her.
And Donna wants to buy them.
Ah, Donna.
I know what we can do. Let's start pre-purchasing.
No, don't.
Then you'll have to make a CD because you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I've got all this money." October the 1st for the first CD. Yeah, that'll happen. Jeez, it's been 5 years I've been telling her to do this, and I'm like, I'll help you bake it. And now I got this.
I'll tell you what, Simon, I'm going to be laid up for a while due to my surgery. So while I'm laid up, I'll start writing up some of my folk tales and my family stories. I'm going to be, what not? I'm not going to have anything else to do. So why not?
Right. And then Ray can drive you down here in the wheelchair and dump you up on the doorstep. You've got her. I've had her for long enough. You can have her now for a few weeks.
Get rid of her.
So Donna says she's in. Scott. Oh, hang on. Scott, my friend Scott.
I was lucky enough actually to work with Simon at a festival. That was fun. Remember, Simon?
That was fun. Yeah.
And the White Mountain. We kept swapping off stories. And
yeah. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And that was the other time at Seekonk. That was the first time I was recorded at Seekonk.
Yep.
Right. And he gave me this book of Irish stories, which I had already, which I gave to you. And there was a book that I snuck from you which I need to get to you because it's really good. Jeremiah Curtin, collection of Irish stories.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Jeremiah Curtin's amazing. Yeah. Funeral story.
Oh, Andrea.
That's not Andrea, that's Donna.
Oh yeah, I for one of Andrea's slams, I had to do a funeral story. It's my mother's family. It was pretty crazy, and my grandmother was the matriarch. Ruled with an iron fist. 12 kids she had to.
Yeah, right.
She would, whenever there was a death, a friend of theirs passed away, or a friend's family member, she would send some of the older boys as pallbearers. And my uncle Franny had just gotten home from the war, and she said, "You're going to be a pallbearer this, Friday." And I guess that was the day he had to go and pick up his funds, from the military. He had to go downtown in New Bedford but she insisted he had to go to the funeral. So as he's driving to the funeral, he's thinking about it, and he thinks, well, I've got time. They were on their way to the cemetery. So I've got time. I'll scoot down there. We're close by. I'll run in. I'll get my check, and I'll get there to the cemetery in time. So he does. He, takes off and goes down town to the Social Security office, whatever office it was at the time. And he jumps out of the car ready to rush in. And he turns around and he looks, and the whole rest of the funeral procession had followed him down there.
Oh, no. Oh my gosh, that is so bad. That's so funny. That's a good one.
One funeral story from my family that it seemed like she might even be talking about my funeral story too. I've got a pretty funny funeral story of going to the wrong funeral, but that's a story for another day.
Can I share with you my funeral story?
Sure.
So my grandfather had died, and in Wolverhampton, and this is a long time ago. My grandfather had died in Wolverhampton. And my dad, who lives in South Wales, Swansea, he got his car all detailed out for the it's not corsage. What is it called? Cortege. Yeah. The cortege is the flower. The cortege is the car. So we all got all the cars. Everyone in the family had their cars sorted out. My brother and I, and my two cousins, and I think my brother Jeremy as well. We're all going in my dad's Volvo station wagon, Volvo Estate. And he's got it parked up on the neighbors, with permission, up on the neighbors' grass on their garden, which was raised up a little bit. There was like a brick height, and there was a brick wall. And so my dad's the left-hand side of the car's here, the right-hand side of the car's there. And the cortege, thank you. I'm a bear of very little brain. The cortege starts driving off, right? And we get in the car, and the wheels spin out because it'd been raining that night, right? And I'm like, we're like the last car. We got to get going because none of us know where this funeral place is, right? The crematorium. We have no idea where it is. So I was like, Colin, let's go. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. So I get out of the car. I'm, suit, dress shoes with no, they're leather soled shoes. I'm trying to rock the car, get everybody out. We're trying to rock the car. It's just going deeper and deeper into this mud, right? And we see that the last cortege go around the corner, and we're kind of like, oh, we got to get this car moved right now. And then immediately after that, this garbage van big truck comes around the corner. There's 8 guys on it. And I'm like, you got to get this car moving. Can you lift it? Can you help us? Like, give it a push. Well, these 8 guys just lifted it onto the road, right? This Volvo station wagon, right? It's not a small car. They picked this car up and they dropped it. We all get back in the car and we take off, right? Now, the car that was detailed is now half covered in mud all along the one side, right?
Oh.
And my brother he's a very good driver and he likes to drive fast and he's safe at it. He's not a stupid fast driver, right? So we're going down this lane. This isn't like Dudley, Wolverhampton, big main streets. This is like the backwoods, way suburbs. So we're driving down this road that's about this big. The Volvo is about this big, and there's a Mini coming the opposite direction, right? And my brother's doing 60 down this road because, it's like the speed limit's 50 anyway. So what's another 10, right? And so I'm like, you going to slow down? He's like, no, I got this. I'm like, what do you mean you got this? It's like, we're doing 60 miles. I'm looking at his dad. I'm like, we're doing 60, Colin, you might want to slow down. He's like, I've got this. And I'm like, oh, just like, okay, I hope you do. And I can see the guy in the Mini and I can see his eyes getting bigger and bigger. And then my brother drives up on the bank and there's this wooden hedge, right? This natural hedge that's growing. He drives up on the bank, round the Mini and comes back down the other side. So zoop, zoop. And I'm looking at the guy in the middle. I think he soiled himself slightly. So we're like tanking down this road. We get to the main road. We're going down the main road. It's only one way that we can go. And then we get to this set of lights and it's like 4 or 5 roads going off here. We have no idea which one to take. The cars have gone, right? We have no idea where. So I'm like waving at people in the car next to us, like, where's the crematorium? And they're like, well, you go down here, take a left, then you'll take a right, and then you keep going. I was like, that's enough. Off we go for the next stage, right? Then we get to another set of lights. Where's the crematorium? Well, you got to take a right, and then you got to go around the roundabout, and then, so we got there, we see it, and my brother's doing, I don't know, like 45 down this 30-mile-an-hour road. We peel into the parking lot of this crematorium. My brother's doing a one-handed thing and his hand hits the horn. So as we pull in, he's like, bah! Right? And then we kind of slow down, find a spot, and we all get out. And my dad's like, it had to be you guys in that car, didn't it? Like, yeah, it did.
Like the Three Stooges.
Yeah, right. Well, my half brother, he's a lot younger than us. He's probably like 30 years younger than us. Well, maybe 20. I don't know, 20. But yeah, that's our funeral story. There's another one as well, but that's for another day.
Yes, another day.
Another day. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here's you've met Perry, right?
No, I haven't. Well, yes, a long time ago at White Mountain.
Right, and she was about this big, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Perry, come here.
Little.
I want you to see Karen. She's a good friend of mine. Come on. Her hair's all knotted. Here she is. This is my little girl. This is how big she is now.
Beautiful. Hi, Perry. Oh, my goodness. You were so young the last time. How old is Perry now?
She can't hear because I got headphones on. She's 15. She thinks she's about 25, but she's actually 15. I'm going to get smacked for that.
She's lovely. She's lovely.
She is. She's a good kid. She's amazing. she's giving me a look. Yeah. Better be careful. She's stealing the hand sanitizer. I guess that's what she came down here to find. Yeah. Oh, hey, Perry. Mrs. James, who's not Mrs. James anymore. She's Laura Blyman Isolde, says hi. Mrs. James says hi. Come and say hi back. Mrs. James was her preschool kindergarten teacher. She's like,
oh, how lovely.
She sent some hearts and everything. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so sweet. That's so nice.
She's a good kid. She's a keeper. Well, we've all gone through this coronavirus time, and she's still living with us. We haven't eaten her yet, and torn up her clothes to use as toilet paper. So that's a good sign, right?
All kind of same.
I know, right? Yeah, those 12-year-olds, those tweens and teens, and yeah, they're.
Rachel.
I mean, I remember what I was like. I was a pain in the neck when I was a kid. If my mom were here now, she'd tell you. She sometimes lurks in the background. I don't think she's here today, though. But yeah, I was a pain in the neck as a child. Karen.
Yes.
It's been brilliant.
It has been. It's always fun hanging out with you, Simon. And extra bonus to see all these other friends today.
I know. Isn't it cool? All these extra folks that come in and say hi. And Perry got to say hi to Mrs. James, Mrs. J. who's not Mrs. J anymore.
And we got
Isolde. That's such a cool name, Miss Laura. I'm going to call you Laura now. That's such a cool name, Isolde.
Tony. We got Bitcoins.
Yeah, we got Bitcoins from our Tony. It's true. Yeah. So, Karen, we got to get together like in the flesh at some point. And
and not in a parking lot this time.
Not in a parking lot. That was afterwards. We met afterwards in the parking lot. We were just goofing around about that. But I do want to say that Kristen did say something earlier that I wanted to share with you about the CD. She says, oh, hang on. Yeah, it's more than okay that it takes time, truly. I'm assuming, Kristen, you're talking about the CD, right? Yes, it does. But Karen's been doing this for longer than I have. And I'm working on my 5th storytelling CD, my 6th CD right now. Yeah, and I feel, well, I'm something. I'm not sure if prolific's the right word. Egocentric, I don't know.
No, you're extremely talented. Extremely talented.
So anyway, thanks everyone for being here via Donna, Rachel, Laura. It's been great to have Laura here. She always pops in every once in a while. And Kristen, it's always nice to see Kristen because she always gives off free hugs, and we all love free hugs.
I know. Kristen, when you're in Massachusetts, you have to come on my TV show. All right, Donna too, absolutely. Rachel, you're all invited.
Oh, and Rachel, she says you got to commit.
Oh, I
to
have
the CDs. You have to commit to the CDs. Yes.
I'm going to commit myself. Yes.
Yes, but it doesn't take 5 years to give birth to a baby. I mean, a CD or a baby, actually.
I'm way too judgmental on myself, So whenever I do any record,
just on yourself.
Yeah. Well, I try not to be judgmental on other people. I try. I don't always succeed.
I think we all are at some point. So yeah, it's been wonderful seeing you, Karen. We got to get together sometime. As soon as it's like, possible and safe, we'll have to do a trip.
Absolutely.
So Rachel's a pusher. Good Lord. I had no idea she was such a pusher. Look at her. So what date? Be more specific. It's like, what the give her a break. She's
good, Donna. Good. I would love to have you on the show.
Yeah.
She's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should have a big party at your place because yours is bigger than ours.
Sounds like a plan.
I don't mind inviting everyone.
Now I have the big playroom downstairs. We'll kick the boys out and we'll,
Yeah, right. Me and Tony, we can hang out down there while you ladies have fun upstairs.
Yeah, we'll mattress down there. You'll be all set.
Oh, dear. All right, Karen, thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. And remember, next week, I have a special guest.
Who is it?
It's Rachel Ann Harding.
Oh, I love Rachel. Yay. Rachel's wonderful.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.